We're good.
I would like to call to order the special city council meeting. The time is now 5:39 p.m. City Clerk Duarte, will you please take roll?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Frometa,
Here.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Alvarez,
Present.
and Mayor Pacheco.
Present. I would like to start off by welcoming members of the public to this special city council meeting. We have asked the applicants for the Council District 2 vacancy to join us tonight for the interview process. All 5 applicants are present here in the council chambers. This appointment is for the remaining 6 months of the Council District 2 unexpired term. My council colleagues appreciate the interest we have received in filling this vacancy. Before we open the public hearing item, I will explain the interview process for tonight. The order of interviews will be determined by a random drawing to be conducted shortly. Once the order is determined, the first applicant to be interviewed will remain in the council chambers while the other 4 applicants take a seat outside the chambers and wait their turn to be interviewed. At the start of the interview, each applicant will have 3 minutes to introduce themselves. Following the applicant's introduction, each council member will have the opportunity to ask the applicant 2 questions. Responses will be limited to 3 minutes per question, and all applicants will be asked the same questions. Once all interview questions have been asked, each applicant will have 2 minutes to add any closing remarks. At the conclusion of the interview, the applicant must return to their seat outside the council chambers until all applicants have been interviewed. At the appropriate times, city staff will inform the applicants to return to the chambers. Upon conclusion of the interviews the city council will deliberate and consider taking formal action and adopt a resolution appointing an applicant to fill the city council District 2 for the vacancy for the remainder of the unexpired term, which ends in November of 2022. I will be taking public comment at the conclusion of the interviews and before the council deliberates. So again, the public hearing we have before us is to interview applicants and receive input from the community regarding Council District 2 vacancy appointment. Conduct interviews of 5 applicants for the Council District 2 vacancy, receive input from the community, and select an applicant for formal appointment and swearing in on May 3rd, 2022, to fill the unexpired term of Council District 2. The hour having arrived, the public hearing is now open. The time is 5:42 p.m. City Clerk Duarte, do you have the proof of publication?
Yes, Mayor, I do.
Can I have a motion, a second, to receive and file the publication?
So moved.
Is there a second? Please vote.
The motion is approved unanimously.
City Clerk Duarte, will you now conduct a random drawing to determine the order of interviews?
Yes, Mayor. So we have here, let me see, 1 second. Where is the motion? There we go. We have all the names of all 5 applicants up on the screen, and then we'll conduct the randomized drawing. Okay, so that has been conducted, and the first person to be interviewed will be Jeremy Shedd, then Mario Guerra, 3rd, Patrick Owens, 4th, Victoria Valdez, and 5th, Donald LaPlante.
Thank you. May I please have the first applicant proceed to the podium and the remaining 4 applicants please step outside the chambers to begin the first interview. Welcome and thank you, Mr. Shedd, for joining us this evening. Like was mentioned, each of us will have 2 questions, and I will start off to my far left with Councilmember Trujillo.
Mayor, before we
Oh,
move
sorry.
on to the questions, can we have Mr. Shedd please introduce himself?
That would help. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. Good afternoon. Thank you to council members, mayor, city residents for inviting me here tonight. I also want to thank, of course, my family who encouraged me to come and apply as they are residents as well. I am not an aspiring politician. I do not hold any aspirations for higher office. I'm here today because I'm a citizen who feels concerned and has a sense of obligation because I have the skills and experience to represent District Downey 2. I am Jeremy Shedd. I'm a senior manager of procurement at Southern California Edison. I am also an MBA candidate at USC Marshall School of Business. I have an extensive background in contracts and supply management, which I believe provides an excellent foundation to guide the decision-making process required for this role. After reading the Downey City Charter and the responsibilities assigned to the City Council and those that they appoint, I recognize the importance that this position has on the long-term stability of the city. If I'm appointed to represent District 2, my focus will be on the following: community safety, economic development, financial stability, and improved relationships with both internal and external stakeholders. I want to thank you again for this opportunity, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have for me.
Thank you. Now is the time for the questions, and I will hand it over to Councilmember Trujillo.
Good evening or afternoon.
Thank you.
Good to meet you. Welcome to your chambers. If appointed, what would be your top 3 goals to work on during your time on the council?
Sorry. It is a little difficult. Thank you.
Yeah. If appointed, what would be your top 3 goals to work on during your time on the council?
So as I mentioned, my top goals: community safety. I want Downey to be a place to create an environment where people want to eat, play, explore, live life in Downey, to feel safe and welcomed and call it home, just as I do. I want to focus on economic development, as I mentioned. I believe that there are great opportunities to build, to recruit businesses and retain businesses here, incentivize entrepreneurs, create an incubator program like other cities in the local area have started. I believe that financial stability is critical. There's recent talk about perhaps economic downturns, and the decisions that we make today will create the financial stability in the next 5 to 10 years to come.
And what do you believe are the top issues facing Downey today?
Well, this is my first meeting here, but I've heard that there's been a lot of turmoil, and I believe that representing District 2 and listening to other sides, understanding where other people's input comes from, and then focusing on finding some sort of joint resolution between the parties.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Councilmember Fermetta.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, and thank you for joining us, Mr. Shedd.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate your willingness to apply for this vacancy. My question to you is, why are you interested in this appointment?
That's a tough question. I don't necessarily enjoy public speaking or being out in front of people, but I feel that with my background and skills, I feel that I have an opportunity to bring something to the City Council. It may be a little different than my peers, and I view that as a benefit.
Thank you. And if I may, what qualities do you have that will help bring stability and help promote compromise to this council at the present time,
Yeah.
during this interim position that you would be filling?
It'd be pretty audacious for me to come down here and say that I have a solution for that. But what I can say, working through supply management where I negotiate contracts, the most important thing to do is to listen. There may be other sides that not necessarily agree. There may be conflicts of interest, but I believe that there is a unifying sense of where both sides can win. And I think that's something that, in my experience, I can bring that to the table.
Thank you, Mr. Shedd.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Mayor Pro Tem Alvarez.
Good afternoon, Mr. Shedd. So my first question is, one of the persistent issues the community brings up is the cost of housing, especially rents. Over half of Downey residents are renters. What are your broad views on addressing this issue faced by Downey families?
Yeah, that is a real concern, not only in Downey, but across the state. I am not an economist. I have not studied housing development. I would defer to experts who have strong opinions on that. I have read varying opinions on solutions that may address. I know that rent control can be a contentious issue. And I think that there are places where it has been successful, and I think there have been places where it has unintentionally hurt the wrong people. So I think my biggest concern is seeing a community that turns into no longer a place where people can live and afford their homes, but are moved into a sense of, well, to quote a term, modern serfdom is a concern. Also, as you have people come in and create Airbnbs where they're no longer living in their homes or it's vacant, I think that is a real concern.
Thank you. And the second question, are you planning to run in November?
I haven't considered it. I mean, coming here today, I've read about the opening. It would really depend on whether or not, how the next few months transpire. If it's not myself elected, and I feel that the person who does represent District 2 isn't doing a sufficient job, I would once again feel a sense of obligation to step forward.
Thank you so much.
But I have not filed the paperwork, if that's what you're asking.
Thank you.
Thank you. And again, thank you, Mr. Shedd, for being here. I have two questions. My first question is actually a two-part question. So I'm more than happy to repeat if necessary. But the first part is, how can you factor in other views that you may not agree with? And can you give an example as to when this has occurred?
Yeah. So I come from a large family, so disagreements are par for the course. I'm used to that. And especially as we've grown up and gone different ways with politics and other things, that's part of it. But at the end, you're a family, you're a community, you have to work together. I mentioned in supply management, we are negotiating with companies that have different interests. We're working with internal clients at Southern California Edison to meet their goals, and oftentimes there's conflicting priorities. So I think that's a central focus is, once again, to listen, to understand the other party, and I think there is common ground, oftentimes more often than people realize.
And second question, what makes you the best candidate?
Wow. I had an opportunity to meet a couple people outside. I think a lot of them are very qualified. I've also read in the Downey Patriot raving about some candidates and not others. I'm not going to speak directly to say that I am superior to the others, but what I can say is that I really do care about District 2. I rented originally in District 2. Fortunate, my partner and I have been able to buy a home. And I want what's best for District 2 and my local neighbors. So I live there, I experience it, I've seen some of the changes, and that's what I'd like to specifically address. So.
Thank you. Thank you for answering all the questions. You will now have a 2-minute closing statement to say any additional comments that you want to state to all of us, any questions that weren't covered. So you may proceed.
Thank you. The big thing is I just want to thank you for the opportunity. I realize that in preparing for this, this was difficult for me, and I can only imagine how difficult it is for you. This is a critical decision that you're faced with, and all the guidance, everything that goes into it. I wish you the best because it is critical, I think, in the long-term stability of Downey. This is an essential decision. So thank you for your time, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's not easy, is it?
Anything else?
No, that's it.
All right. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Have a good
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you, everyone.
Hello, Madam Mayor, City Council members.
Thank you, Mr. Mario Guerra, former mayor of Downey. Thank you for also participating in this process. I'd like to start off with having you do an introduction.
Well, great. First of all, I did write down some of my notes. I know I have 3 minutes. I'll go really fast. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today and discussing this. Most of you know me really well. We've worked together on many Downey projects and charities together. We all share a great passion for our city. You know my love for Downey, and regardless of any decision you make, I will continue to represent our city, and I, like you, feel a special obligation to our city as a former mayor, and that's why I'm here before you. I would like to have this opportunity to continue to serving at this time. Councilmember Trujillo, you always said that you want to govern by bringing back the basics of local government. I've been paying attention to you. The blocking and the tackling, fixing streets, constituent service, improve parks and safe areas. And I couldn't agree with you more. That's why I feel I could be effective. And because of the short time period here, this council needs someone who does not require on-the-job training, someone who can begin helping the residents of District 2 from day one. And I feel uniquely qualified to be able to do this. I feel strongly that an appointment for someone that could possibly run for the seat in just a few months would not be wise. I agree with Mayor Pacheco when she stated a few months ago that voters should pick the elected official in November. Until then, they would have a voice for someone with experience and without the politics of running for the same seat. By the way, we all know about our amazing school district, and some of the people have said about working together on there. That's almost a given for all of us, and we continue. These things on the wall here, trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. That's what our community was about. I'm proud to have been part of that with our school district to do that. My goals for the next few months would be about constituent services. Nobody else can start from day one and not have any on-the-job training. And now more than ever, our city, I believe, needs institutional knowledge. Hiring a city manager and a city attorney is different from hiring other executives like school superintendents or other kind of qualifications. The qualification and skill sets are uniquely different. The city would benefit from having a council member who has hired both a city attorney and a city manager. For example, it's obviously a given that the new city manager would bring ethics, a good reputation from other cities and coworkers. They would have fiscal experience and experience in regulations for local government. They would hopefully come from a charter city versus a general law city. And although that would not be a deal breaker, those things should be a given. But what else do they bring to the table is what we also is important. What's their vision for a community like Downey? What have they done or want to do to move our city forward from an economic standpoint? How creative will they be in knowing what to do about Downey and some of our issues and local things that we work on? Our history. What crises have they had to deal with in the past? What does he or she envision our city look like in 5 or 10 years? How will they address the big issues of the community? I would like to help answer some of those and some of those concerns. By the way, I ran out of time. I went as fast as I could.
Thank you. Well, I'm sure a lot of this will probably be covered in a lot of the questions that we have, which I believe you've answered some of them, but I'll go ahead and proceed with Councilmember Trujillo. We'll start off with the first question.
Mayor Guerra, if appointed, what would be your top 3 goals to work on during your time on the council?
what's interesting, there's not enough time for legacy projects, as we all talked about on there. I've done my legacy projects. I'm very proud. I worked with some of you on those things. Top three things for the moment. I mean, obviously, the given the public safety and all these other things are important and should continue to be. But for me personally, the things I would like to bring up, first of all, I would like to have Lance Corporal Josh Whittle's name put on the Veterans Memorial outside. I promised his mom on there 9 years ago when he died. We still have not done that. I would like to add the name of John Gately Downey and James Stamps to the Downey Hall of Fame. There's only one member of the City of Downey Hall of Fame, that's Dr. Mary Stauffer. And the third thing, I want to do like Long Beach did when they prioritized their veteran community issues for veterans on there that they just passed unanimously by their city council about 3.5 weeks ago. I know we have a Veterans Council, but it's identifying and the needs and putting together goals for the city. So mine are simple. I understand there's only 14 council meetings in the next 6 months. I do not plan on trying to overturn anything that you guys have done, and I plan on working together with you to move your items and issues forward. But those are the top three that, because they're easier and they're things that I would not be stepping on any toes to do. And I think we could work together on that.
And what do you believe are the top issues facing Downey today?
Wow. Stability, transparency, always attracting top managers. I think a cohesiveness. We've always been fiscally conservative, so I would always put that at the top of the list. But I don't know if that's an issue for us because we do have large reserves we've always had, and economic development continues in our city and will even get stronger. So I think it's basically working together. I think I could help build that bridge together with this council. I would like to have the opportunity to try. I've always been somebody that works well with other people. I did that for 8 years here. There's still a lot of staff that know me. And so I think for me, some of those are some of the top three issues I think that we can deal with in the city.
Thank you.
Okay, next up we have Councilmember Fermetta.
Good evening, Mayor Guerra.
Good evening.
Why are you interested in this appointment?
4 other former mayors, when they first come out to the vacancy on their Mayor Cartosian, Mayor Roger Brosmer, Mayor Alex Saab, and Mayor Rick Rodriguez. So they called me up and they asked me if I would consider doing this. They are also very, very qualified. There's a lot of great people that you could put into this position. I happen to be the only former mayor living in District 2, and I'm the only one that's termed out that can't run for office. So they asked me if I would come in and help and bring in some of my talents and some of my cohesiveness and some of my institutional knowledge. So for 6 months, if this was a 4-year appointment, I would not be here. I'm enjoying my life, my post-mayor life. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I think I can bring some unique talents, and especially with the transitions that we're having over the next couple of months here, I feel that I can help you on there to help our city. So that's the reason.
You know, in a follow-up question to that, Mayor Guerra, what qualities, and I think you've answered a little bit of that, but what qualities do you have that will help bring stability and help promote compromise on this council right now?
So one of the articles that was written about me said I have a polarizing and bold personality, okay? And I resemble that remark. I also like that Dave Gaffin called me a cheerleader. I love that too. But I think that some of the things that I can bring is some of the detail, you know, that's going on in our city. Right now, on the corner of Melva and Paramount, there's a big hole with a big bags on there. It's been there for 2.5 months. On the same thing on the corner of Cole and Paramount. In Downey on Imperial Highway, they're spray painting all up and down the sidewalk. There's an ordinance that the city of Downey passed in 2013 that says contractors clean up your spray painting, your red spray painting. I have an eye for detail. I have an eye for the district. I love this community, and District 2 needs a representative for the next 6 months. So that's one of the main reasons that I feel that I can help it out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up we have Mayor Pro Tem Alvarez.
Good afternoon, Mr. Guerra. One of the persistent issues in the community brings up is the cost of housing, especially rents. Over half of Downey residents are renters. What are your broad views on addressing this issue faced by Downey families?
Well, I think we should continue to always build more. You know, I've been helping somebody try to build 2 projects here in the city of Downey that'll bring in over 60 units on. They're all renters. I believe that the city of Downey has always been a stable place. It's a move-up community, so yes, the rents are high, but I just heard a rent analysis today. You know, the 10th city in California for rents is the city of Oakland, and averaging at $2,000, where the city of LA averages $2,800. City of Beverly Hills, of course, is $3,800. This is for a standard unit. So the city of Downey's nowhere near that. I think we continue to make, by adding more housing, I continue to make affordable housing in the city. So my view is that I think we should always continue to build. I think that we had over $1 million to help renters during the pandemic, and I think a lot of the money wasn't even used there. So I'm always willing to continue to get more. CDGB money is always available to us. The federal money funds are still coming in when they came in from the not the TARP. It was. When the pandemic relief fund that was given out. So we received several $1 million for that.
Thank you for your answer. Well, this question, are you planning to run for November? I already know the answer.
Not in the city of Downey, I'm not. Okay?
Yeah, you can.
You know what's interesting, folks? That our city charter is a little bit different than most other cities. Okay, our term limits are not defined by 8 years. Our term limits say that the city clerk will not accept nomination papers more than twice from somebody, right? So I've turned in my nomination papers twice. I'm proud to have served from 2006 to 2014, so I can't run again on there. So I'd love to be a cheerleader. I want to help every way I can, and I've always been a sounding board, and I continue to be for anybody on the council and our city staff.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, you are the biggest cheerleader here in the city of Downey. You're always at every event, and you represent Downey well. You've done a great job
Thank you, ma'am.
the last 2 terms that you served. Unfortunately, we couldn't serve together, but I've heard of all the accomplishments, and you are the biggest cheerleader for Downey. And I think
Thank you.
everyone here can attest to that.
Thank you. I'll carry that title proudly, ma'am.
So I have 2 questions. My first one is a 2-parter. So if you need for me to repeat, more than happy to. How can you factor in other views that you may not agree with? And can you give an example as to when this has occurred?
Oh my goodness, this has occurred a lot of times. First of all, I feel compromise is part of the job, I think, to move things forward. Several things that we originally had here in the city of Downey that were a close vote on the Portals was originally a 2-2 vote. Changing the name of Clark Avenue to Columbia Way was originally a 2-2 vote, okay? And how we changed those things was by compromise, by talking about it. You know, we were able to take Mayor Pro Tem Dave Gaffin out to see what a Portals looked like in Buena Park, and he changed his vote because we did $500,000 in community redevelopment. So it was a 3-1 vote to bring Portos to Downey. What an amazing thing. We did the same thing in we were trying to bring Tesla here, and Tesla stood us up, and the day after, we said, okay, what's next? And the promenade came up next. There was a lot of different discussion on the city council, what, how, and who. And we were able to work together on that. So I have a record of doing that. I mean, I'm proud. Listen, I know the politics in the room. Okay, so hey, this guy Mario, he's a Republican and so forth. But you know, most of you know me. I'm a very moderate Republican, and I was appointed by Janice Hahn 2 years ago to be on the Downey Cemetery District. I've served under 3 presidents, 2 of them Democratic. I was sworn in the last week of President Obama's administration, then reappointed January 7, 2017, reappointed on there under the Trump administration, then reappointed by the Biden administration. So believe me, working every single day in the United States Army on there, you work together and you do compromise. You move the mission forward. My mission here would be to help move Downey forward on there and working together. I think most of the staff, I'm proud to have worked with Gilbert Levis and Yvette on there and so many different people. I've been a chaplain here for 20 years. Even during the 8 years, the day I was elected, I contacted the chief and I said, Chief, on there, it's up to you. Do you want me to stay as chaplain, or do you think that's going to be a conflict? He says, we'll work it out. Never once had an issue. When I worked for the police department, it's an organization that I'm at the bottom of the totem pole as chaplain. When I worked here, I was mayor on the council. So we all respected our positions, and we worked really well together.
Thank you. And here's the second question. What makes you the best candidate?
I think that I want to represent District 2. District 2 needs a representation. I feel that I have the experience. Number one is, I don't even need an email address. Okay. I don't need a polo shirt either, by the way. Anyway, I'm kidding about that. Somebody told me that the other day. Mayor Saab told me that. I think that I can bring a lot to the table. I'm uniquely qualified from the standpoint that it's a short period and you need some institutional knowledge. I can help provide that. In June, when Mr. Levis leaves, I'm there, and I know at the end of the month when Yvette Garcia, our city attorney, leaves, I'm there, and I know that I worked closely with Gandhi for 8 years on the budget committee, so I know the budget inside and out. I'm real proud of it. I'm such a nerd. I read the budget for the last 6 years when I haven't been on the council, okay? So I do know what you guys are voting for, and I'm proud of that. When I left the city, we had 41% of our general funds was in reserves. Really proud of that number. That was the highest ever. So I think I bring some unique talents. I think I bring institutional history, and I bring a passion for District 2 in the city that I think is important.
Thank you. And now you can do your 2-minute closing. Cover anything that wasn't covered. Anything you want to add?
I didn't know I got that. I just wrote it at the back end. You know what? I don't need to read anything. I love the city. District 2 needs representation. I'm here to serve. If you don't pick me, that's okay. I got Dodger tickets for next Tuesday night, and I'll be glad to be there instead. I haven't canceled them yet, and so forth. But you know what? I think that the biggest part that I can bring is basically serving the district and serving the people of District 2. I think they need a representation. You guys are all going to work hard, and I know the question is, you got Councilman Trujillo that technically represents the whole city, so why do you even need somebody? Well, you just lost 20% of your representation, okay, in answering emails and calls. I want to be in the district. You guys can't be there, and so forth. I drive to the district because I live in the district. And I mean, just in the last couple of weeks when I drive around and I make myself notes because I'm nerdy about those things. I called in 923-4484 for our graffiti hotline. I was one of the ones that helped instigate the graffiti app that we have in our city. I love all those things because it makes our community better for our residents. And that's one of the reasons I want to be picked on there. And it's not for the fancy $743 on there, which I always donate it on there. By the way, you guys need to change your water on there. This is Downey tap water, okay? So you need to go back to buying Downey tap water and supporting our local business. I'm being facetious, of course. But I feel uniquely qualified to be able to help, and I want to. And if not, I'll still continue to cheer for all of you because this city is important. It's my home. I'm raising my, Saturday I got a unique privilege that I got to do the first communion for my grandson over at St. Raymond's, who I baptized 7 years ago. So Father Sam invited me back. So I'm not going anywhere, and I'm still here. So thank you for your consideration, all of you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, esteemed council, city manager, city attorney, city staff. I'm Patrick Owens, and I'm 68 years old. I am a resident of District 2 for 68 years, as I'm Downey native born. So I'm married for the past 30 years. My wife sitting in the crowd, the support, right? We have 4 adult children, 9 grandchildren, and I've enjoyed participating in the appointments that I've received, from previous council, including the current council, now resigned, to the Planning Commission, where currently I'm the chair. I've served the last 8 years on that commission, and I've served with Councilmember Fermetta's husband, honorably, as well as several others. So my schooling started in St. Raymond's, which is in District 2 on Paramount, so grade school there. 4 years at Pius X High School, which is now Pius X St. Matthias. 1 year, I thought I had the calling to become a Catholic priest, so I attended the Catholic seminary, Queen of Angels in the San Fernando Valley. And then continuing education, I spent 2 years at Long Beach State, no major declared, but I am currently registered at Los Angeles Trade Technical College, where I take labor studies and have continued to take labor studies and labor law. So prior to Planning Commission, I had been appointed to the Public Works Committee by past council, as well as the Green Task Force by past council. So all in all, about 12 years, of appointments and honorably served, and hopefully fulfilled, in the positions I've been given. Other than that, my occupation, if you are curious, it's of course in the application, but I put down that I'm an electrician. I'm a union electrician by trade. I no longer work with the tools. For the past 30 years, I've served in administrations of elected union officials, and I do compliance work, and I also represent members that are electricians that do the construction and our maintenance work for private contracting. The balance of who I am is I feel that I've served well in those appointments, but also I feel that I've moved certainly the agenda, the interests of District 2 members.
Sorry.
Got it.
Okay. We'll go ahead and start off with questions. To my far left, we have Councilmember Trujillo.
Good evening, Mr. Owens.
Good evening.
If appointed, what would be your top 3 goals to work on during your time on the council?
Okay, so as sitting on the Planning Commission and as some of the controversy or controversial issues have first visited us and then landed in your lap, my interest would be, to continue to wrestle, with those challenges, make the right decisions, bring back, to the applicant and to the residents and citizens the proper decision. Maintaining civility, maintaining order, getting the business done. That would be top priority. Given enough time, because understanding this is 6 months, given enough time, my focus, because I believe we have to leave, everything we do in the hands of the next generations. If we don't prepare them successfully, don't have those real talks or provide real outlets to guide the youth that may not be able to attend college, either on scholarship or out of their parents' pockets or their jobs. There has to be a way that we engage the youth in order to move our agenda forward and protect, what we've already put in place. The last thing is in District 2, some of the biggest projects that have come through Downey, in the recent past are upon us. And we're talking about South Rancho Campus. So being that that's in District 2, I would definitely, engage with whatever business came forth in order to continue that project or those projects for the benefit of the city as well as the residents of District 2.
Okay. And what do you believe are the top issues facing Downey today?
So the city is a little unsettled, certainly without a city manager, certainly with staff, leaving. To me, that's the first priority, is to calm, the situation down, make educated and, certainly important decisions, on the pick of the city manager and or any of the staff, vet, completely so that we achieve, what the city needs to continue, it moving forward. So I think that's the first issue that needs addressing. Is we're not rudderless, but we do have to settle down somewhat. Beyond that, again, in a 6-month window, it's whatever priority comes first, is to help in the process, understand that whoever you may choose is the latecomer and pretty much needs to support and assist and complement each and everything that you've already done and not try to, establish a new path or a new, procedure.
Thank you, Mr. Owens. Next up, we have Councilmember Fermetta.
Commissioner Owens,
Yes, ma'am.
it's such a pleasure.
You as well. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, and thank you for your service to our community.
Certainly.
I have a couple of questions. First is, why are you interested in this appointment, Commissioner Owens?
Okay, so I had talked a little bit about, my history in town. I bought in. I'm all in. I care about, my district, of course. I care about my neighbors. I care about things that are bugging them. And again, I think we've responsibly wrestled, with those items coming in front of planning over the last few years to present to council. And I think we've kept in mind, all of us as commissioners have kept in mind, how to create positive outcomes. So I want to see that continue. I think that I have enough in the tank, and I think I'm well familiar with the issue, that it would be a good transition, not seamless, but less bumpy, because I'm already addressing the issues that we, again, gracefully hand over.
Right. And I think you partially answered my second question.
Okay, I'm
but I'm still going to go ahead and ask this in case you want to elaborate further. What qualities, Commissioner Owens, do you have that would help you bring stability and help promote compromise to this council at this particular time?
I'm a listener. So that's the first thing. Listen, everyone has something to say. However long, however deep, however involved, intricate it is, it still deserves a listen. And from listening, you become educated. And then with education, you could make an educated, outcome. So that is my strongest quality, is that I listen, I churn it around, don't just take an emotional stab at something because it's hit me emotionally, and come out again, hopefully with, a real well-educated, and well-decided outcome.
And as far as building compromise?
So compromise building is a must, because there are two, not warring opinions, but opposite opinions. And again, everyone has some validation as to why they stand on what they stand. Hear them out, make a positive outcome for all involved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Mayor Pro Tem Alvarez.
Hi, good evening, Council.
Good evening. My first question is, one of the persistent issues the community brings up is the cost of housing, especially rents. Over half of Downey residents are renters. What are your broad views on addressing this issue faced by Downey families?
Yeah. Thank you for the question. Affordable housing is a must. Again, back to the planning experience and the items that come in front of us, certainly in your laps as well, but the ADUs and the other things that the state is requiring as far as increasing housing, capacity or housing volume inventory, in everybody's city. It's a must here as well. We have a goal and we have to work towards that. Affordable housing is important because of where we're at. We're in the southeast area of Los Angeles County. We're not in Beverly Hills, we're not in the west side. So work is here. People need to live close to work as possible. We are fortunate that we are viewed as, the diamond of the area. Everyone looks up to Downey. Everyone looks up to what we may be able to provide. And I think that the rents that people are charging, and I'm aware of some of the prices in the neighborhood where I live, and young families can't afford that. The young families that can't afford that aren't just husband, wife, and children. They end up being extended. And I can talk about my house. It's small. So if I had other adult children moving in with extended family, and then some, it would be very tough. But that's the situation we're in. So something's got to give. So we have to look at what rents are being paid. Are they, I guess, are they fair, to what the persons or people that are trying to rent them can pay? And do some question and some answers with those people to come out the other end to find out, okay, here's what the city supports, here's what you want to pay, and come back to what Ms. Fermetta had said, come back to some consensus building. So I think we're a bit out of control. I can speak of my neighborhood when they're getting $3,500 a month for a rent of a 1,700 square foot house. I know why they come. It's Downey schools, certainly. That's why my parents came here, it's a very attractive, asset that the city also maintains. But we need to have that dialogue with those people who would like to, relocate here and take advantage of, again, all the amenities we offer. We are the gem in the area.
Thank you, Mr. Owens. My second question is, are you planning to run in November?
No. So understanding this is 6 months, understanding my age, understanding how my feet may feel or elbows may feel, no. But, but back to the youth. We need to hand off responsibly, educationally, the purposes as to why we're all standing here, so that we can guarantee our future, which is shorter, potentially than theirs, and benefit by handing it off, again, responsibly, that they carry on the legacy that you have set, the people before you have set, and so on and so on. So that's why I wouldn't seek election in November, is because I believe there are stronger candidates, and it is represented in our youth, not necessarily an old guy with gray hair and blue eyes.
Thank you, Mr. Owens.
Thank you. And I have two questions. The first one's a two-parter. And if you need for me to repeat, I'm more than happy to.
All right, I'm old.
How can you factor in other views that you may not agree with? And can you give an example as to when this has occurred?
Okay, so some of the applicants or applications that have come at planning, I have not been a yes vote or I have not been a no vote on, and they contain controversy. And so taking the issue, in front of me, understanding the limits that are in place as far as adjudicating the matter, and then coming out the other end with, my opinion on the matter and sharing that with my colleagues, sometimes is in conflict with the body. It's a 3-1 or 3-2 or 4-1, as you all experience, right? So I'm not afraid, to express but not exhaust my point, okay? Just weigh in. And if it's not a good outcome, that's where my mind has to go. It has to serve the community on all aspects and not just one entity or another.
Thank you. And second question is, what makes you the best candidate?
Thank you. Good question. So back to my years of appointment and service. To me, it's a seamless transition if you pick me. I'm already dealing with the matters that come forward to you. I might see them, we might see them in advance. Not everything, but as of late, even the controversy, okay? So understanding, again, the limits, understanding how it has to work in a council setting, making that decision. I have no problem with understanding the issues, no problem with coming to, an educated, and good decision for all. Some of my background in the job that I do is public works, and it's day-to-day, it's contracts, it's compliance, it's awarding. I don't award, but I see who gets the award, and then I will look at, was it a fair, way that they got the award? And it's similar, it's very typical to council business. You know, you are awarding contracts, you are looking at, you know, progress on projects. You know, you are dealing again with the housing elements, you know, and other proposals. It's what I do all day long. So my professional world is a real good segue into a council seat and the business of the council.
Thank you. And now you have a 2-minute closing statement period. So anything else you want to cover? Any additional information?
So I can take a little breath. No, you know, I didn't want to be too lengthy. You know, it's just simply you have an idea who I am. You have my resume in front of you. I strongly believe I'm the best gap filler, the best candidate with no ulterior motive in the fall. I don't have an agenda to run. I think there needs to be some calming down, like we talked about, you know, a little bit of settling, only because, not because of you, but just things are just, that's life, right? I can bring that to you. I'll work well with every one of you. You know, I have no issue, you know, being partners, you know, and coming to consensus on anything. I'm not going to just stand on a point and never move. It doesn't make things work. I think 4 council members can't run council business, you know, efficiently or satisfactorily because, again, of the polarization of an issue. It can be 2-2 and nothing gets done. It's going to be a battle 3-1 or 1-3. You know, why battle if there's a way to fill a seat with someone that's already, you know, in the flow of things, and again, recognizing that it's a 6-month appointment, you know, in order to conduct council business and get it done. And that's what I have.
Thank you, Mr. Owens.
And thank you all.
Can we take 5 minutes?
5 minutes? We'll go ahead and take a 5-minute break. We will now reconvene the council meeting. Next up, we have Ms. Valdez.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
I'll let you start off with an introduction, a 3-minute introduction, and you may proceed.
All right, I'm going to start off. It's a little nerve-wracking. Got a little heated out there in the lobby, so my train of thought may be a little off, but I'm going to do my best.
Are you okay?
Yes, I'm okay.
Okay.
My name is Victoria Valdez. I've been a resident of Downey since 1995. I used to live off of Adwin and Old River in District 3. I currently live in District 2, so I'm qualified for the position by my residents. I grew up in the southeast area, specifically Huntington Park, Southgate, Maywood, so I'm very familiar with the southeast area. I worked for the City of Bell Gardens for 26 and a half years. I served as a police officer and a detective at that department. I worked with our youth as an advisor for over 12 years. I worked or volunteered for our Police Officers Association as a treasurer, and I negotiated with our city manager and city council for wages and benefits, so I'm comfortable and have that experience of working with the council and mayor and city managers. What else? I've raised my son in the city of Downey as a single mother. He went through the Downey Unified School Districts here, starting at Williams Elementary, Old River West, and Warren. I used to live in Santa Fe Springs for a few years, but Downey Unified School District is what brought me here to put my son through a good or great school system. And also, I felt it was a safe city for me to live as a single woman. And not to mention, the commute to work when I was working was only 3 miles. I love the city of Downey. That's it about me, I think. Oh, I'm sorry. I mentioned that I'm retired, but I also work as a behavior interventionist where I work with disabled students online, where I prompt and praise them as they go through their Zoom classes. But other than that, I have a passion for dogs, so I volunteer for a few dog rescue organizations, and I also mentor youth as a volunteer basis. I've mentored youth pretty much my whole life. And I guess that's probably it. I'm a little nervous, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I have people behind me and
Yeah.
people in front of me.
It's not easy, but thank you for being here, and thank you for your service, and thank you for all that you're doing and everything that you've done. I appreciate you putting in an application to serve this vacancy.
Thank you.
So
I feel like I left something out, but
we might cover it with the questions that
Okay.
we have, because each of us will have 2 questions. And I'll start off to my far left with Councilmember Trujillo, who will
Okay.
ask the first 2 questions.
all righty.
Good evening, Ms. Valdez.
Good evening, Mr. Trio.
Thank you for your years of service
Thank
as
you.
a police officer. If appointed, what will be your top 3 goals to work on during your time on the council?
Top 3. I think the top 3 goals that I would like to work on, one being, it kind of encompasses a lot of stuff though, is public safety. Coming from that background, I find that very important and vital for the community and their families. As a retired police officer, I sometimes see things that maybe the normal resident doesn't see, or I see something that could turn into something. But I would like to work on public safety, and I think that rolls into creating ideas and networking and reaching out to organizations that can help with the homeless problem that we have here. And I think we should also continue to collaborate and have maybe more programs and stuff for our youth and our elderly, because they need to feel safe on both ends. The elderly need to feel safe, because I'm going in that direction, so I'm not going to lie. I want my community to be safe like anybody else. You know, we choose to live here. Some of us choose to live and work here, and we need it to be as safe as possible. It's understood that there's crime in every city. It's not just this city or that city or our neighboring cities are pointing fingers, but I believe public safety is a main concern. I also believe in the beautification of the city, because if it doesn't look good, it's not going to appeal to others. It's not going to invite businesses in. It's not going to invite families in. It's not going to keep the people that we have here now. And that rolls into the third one, which would be affordable housing along with affordable, I'm not sure the correct word for this, but affordable rental spaces for businesses that want to come to the city of Downey, especially your smaller businesses that, grassrooted and started in somebody's kitchen or somebody's garage.
Thank you. And what do you believe are the top issues facing Downey today?
Ooh, I think that kind of rolls back into the three goals that I have. They kind of bounce off of each other. Public safety, the homeless crisis, and the beautification. I mean, we have a beautiful city, but there's always more that can be done. From cracks on the sidewalks to the holes in the streets to taking down graffiti, different stuff like that, just to keep it looking prime.
Thank you, Ms. Valdez.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Councilmember Fermetta.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, Ms. Valdez.
Good
Thank
evening.
you for joining us this evening, and thank you for applying for this appointment. I have a couple of questions for you. Number one, why are you interested in this appointment?
I was going over that in my head before walking in here. I believe, self-proclaimed, I'm just an average woman of the community of Downey. Sometimes I say or see things that I want to improve, and I think sometimes people got to step up no matter how nerve-wracking, how nervous, or how long your resume or your experience and training is in this field. So I needed to do it for myself first, just to step up and say, hey, I'm going to give it my best shot and go for it and learn and willing to collaborate and work with each and every one of you as well as the community. But I want to be that fresh voice. I want to have help with the new ideas. I'm sure like many of you and council before, you want the city to be in harmony. You want it to be beautiful. You want your citizens to be happy. I think those are great goals, and I want to be a part of that. I want to be part of the city of Downey going in a forward, positive manner, bringing it together.
Thank you for that. And the second question, I think you've answered a little bit of that, but what qualities do you have that will help you bring stability and help promote compromise to this particular council at this point in time?
I have worked in the past, I have experience working, like I've mentioned, with former city managers, former city council from the 90s to 2000s. I was with the city of Bell Gardens until they officially retired me in 2016. And during those times, I worked on many projects with the city, working with public works, working with outside agencies and surrounding agencies, including the city of Downey, working with social workers and housing people. And when you work with large groups, you learn to negotiate, you learn to compromise, you learn to bring in your ideas without the name calling, without the put down, but just sharing information and trying to compromise and come together as a solid unity. So I believe I have that. And I've also worked with, like I said, the youth programs for a good 12 plus years. And working with youth, you need to learn to negotiate and compromise quite a bit. So I bring that to the table as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And next up, we have Mayor Pro Tem Alvarez.
Hi, good evening, Ms. Valdez. My first question is, one of the persistent issues the community brings up is the cost of housing, especially rents. Over half of Downey residents are renters. What are your broad views on addressing this issue faced by Downey families?
Well, I think it's a sad thing when rent is as high as it is, but that's something that I don't have a magic wand that I don't think I nor you can just, change in one day. It's a problem that we need to look at because it's deeper than just the number, the rent, being X amount of dollars. I have compassion and empathy for the high renting. Just a side note, from growing up, we moved quite often. And even back then, it was due to my mother being a single parent and her not being able to afford rent. So I know firsthand what it's like to be without a home for a little while and living out of your car. How I would address that, I'm not exactly sure because I don't have the answer. I don't have numbers and I don't have that in front of me. But I would love to work on that with the sitting council and see what we can do and bring in other organizations and see what they can bring to the table to work on making it more affordable for renters.
Thank you, Ms. Valdez. The second question is, are you planning to run for November?
I haven't thought that far ahead. I'm being honest and transparent. I haven't thought that far ahead yet. But I would like to take this position and get my feet wet. Like I said, I know I don't have the longest resume or the longest experience in that, but I'm bringing to the table what I foretold you and also what's on my application. But the answer to your question, I'm not sure yet.
Thank you, Ms. Valdez.
Thank you, Ms. Valdez. I have two questions. My first one is a two-parter. So if you need for me to repeat, I'm more than happy to. First question, how can you factor in other views that you may not agree with? And can you give an example as to when this occurred?
Well, I can probably go back to the time when I was negotiating for our wages and benefits in our Police Officers Association, and not everybody in the room agreed with my thoughts, nor did I agree with their thoughts. And the way we got through it was we each took a turn, and we were respectful to each other, gave out our ideas, and when needed, took breaks, took time alone, brought in other negotiators, from different departments, and did what we had to do, whether that meant staying in that room until we came up with an answer, or officially just saying, you know what, we need to come back to this at a later time. So I think communication is key, and respect.
Thank you. And the second question, what makes you the best candidate?
Well, what makes me the best candidate is because I'm genuine, I'm honest. I have, I believe, a good background to bring to the mix as far as working in law enforcement, working with the youth, being a Downey resident, and wanting to make that difference. And I think showing up tonight shows my interest and my promise to the city of working together as a team and trying to bring that team effort together as we collaborate. I'm the best candidate for the position because I'm me. I know that sounds silly and maybe is not as professional as what you heard from the other candidates, but I'm not gonna say stuff that I don't believe, and I'm not gonna fluff it up with stuff that's not true. This is who I am. I'm Victoria, been a longtime resident. I want to give back to my community. I would love to have the opportunity to work with each and every one of you. I would love to work with the community in making it safer, making it more beautiful, making it more inviting for all.
Thank you. And thank you again for joining us. I will now give you this opportunity to provide us with a 2-minute closing statement.
Oh, wow, I get to talk some more, huh? All right. I got to sell myself some more. I think basically everything I've said, I don't want to keep repeating myself because I know people's time, they don't want to hear me over and over, but I'm a qualified candidate. Do I have the longest or the best qualifications? That I don't know. But I'm here tonight sharing with you that I want to put forth my effort in working with you guys. I'm sorry, working with each and every one of you. I was being too relaxed. And making a positive difference in the city. And I know that sounds cliche and it sounds easy when I stand here and just say it, but really get down to the nitty gritty and work with the differences of opinions and just get to work. And I mean, we all have the same thing in mind, I believe. We want a better city. We want to be the best city. We want to keep Downey beautiful. We want to keep inviting good people to our, not just anybody, we want to invite good people to our city. We want to keep the people that are good in our city. So with that, I mean, I just want to work together and do my best. I think I'm good because I don't want to repeat myself.
Okay, well, thank you very much again for joining us this evening and for putting in your application.
All right, thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening.
Hello.
How are you?
Fine.
So we will go ahead and start with our 3-minute opening statement.
She's going to wait until I start talking, and then she clicks the button.
Yeah.
That's how it works. Good evening. My name is Donald LaPlante. I'm a 62-year resident of Downey and of Council District Number 2. I spent 41 years as a member of the Board of Education of the Downey Unified School District. I served 7 times as president, vice president, and clerk, and served many years on the budget and audit committees. I was elected by the entire school district and city 8 times when we had to live in specific areas, but were voted on at large. The last 2 times I was elected, we were in districts, trustee areas, and Trustee Area 4 and Council District 2 pretty much overlap. So I've served as president of the Los Angeles County School Trustees Association and was on the board of directors for 25 years. Served on the Delegate Assembly of the California School Board Association for 25 years and on the board of directors of the California School Boards Association for 8 years. That's the equivalent of the League of Cities. And on the CSBA board, I served and chaired both the budget committee and the audit committee and was head of the compensation committee at one point. Currently, I serve on the Downey Measure S Citizens Oversight Committee. I've done that for the last 6 years as the committee has been going, and I was the appointee of Mr. Ashton on that committee. I also currently serve on the Measure O School Construction Bond Oversight Committee for the Downey Unified School District. And I'm also a member of the Los Angeles County Committee on School District Organization. I was elected by the school districts of Los Angeles County to be on that board. That's the equivalent of LAFCO, the Local Agency Formation Commission for school districts. Professionally, I'm a retired middle school teacher from the Duarte Unified School District. I taught there for over 20 years. I am a proud union member, serving as secretary, treasurer, and for my final 6 years of teaching as the union president, which is not an out-of-classroom assignment. I'm applying for this District 2 City Council vacancy to continue to serve my community. I believe I can be up to speed fast and have the experience in working as part of a governance team. With the numerous changes that are now happening in the city staff leadership, I can provide stability and experience in searches for the city manager, the chief executive officer, having led 3 extremely successful searches for Downey Unified over my tenure. I'm looking to fill the interim vacancy so there's representation for District 2 and there's no advantage or disadvantage to candidates in the November election. I've served this community for decades. I'm not looking to make the city council one of my careers, but I do offer my talent and experience to the council and the community to help fill this 7-month gap. Thank you. I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. LaPlante. It's always a pleasure seeing you. I know I've worked with you before here in the city. So thank you for also putting in your application.
Thank you.
So we're going to go ahead and ask you a series of questions. I'm going to start off with Councilmember Trujillo, who has her first two questions.
All righty.
Good evening, Mr. LaPlante.
Good evening.
If appointed, what would be your top 3 goals to work on during your time on the council?
I think my top one goal will be to make sure that we have a good city manager. Second goal, to keep the business development climate going well in the community. And my third goal is to figure out why in the world we have a bike lane on Old River School Road and why we're talking about having a traffic circle. That one completely baffles me, having been in the East a few times this year and having to deal with traffic circles. I am like, traffic circle? I hate those things. I can never get around them correctly. It seems to me that the traffic circle causes more damage and more problems than the 4-way stop that we already have there.
And what do you believe are the top issues facing Downey today?
I think the top issues are the importance of having a strong city management. We have good, you're not the police chief, don't try to fool me. We have a strong police department, we have a strong fire department, but the leadership there is relatively new, and it's always going to be relatively new because of the pension programs that provide for these city employees. They're going to come up through the ranks, be there 5 years, and there becomes a point which you go, work all day and get this amount of money, stay home all day and get the same amount of money. You don't do that, you don't block other people. So we're always going to have that problem in the city, but we need to have strong management in the city. We're going to have a good search for a city manager. We're looking, I guess, also for some assistance in there since Aldo has left. I hope cut down his drive, but maybe not. So I think those are the important things we need to be working on in the next few months.
Thank you.
Thank you. And next up, we have Councilmember Fermetta.
Mr. LaPlante, it's always a pleasure seeing you.
Thank you.
Thank you for all of your years of service in Downey Unified School District. You're appreciated. My question to you, sir, is why are you interested in this appointment?
Why would I want to do this, huh? When Mr. Ashton felt he needed to resign for his position, I went, that's going to be interesting. Because we're right at the point where people will be running for the position. And I don't believe it's appropriate to appoint people who want the job full time for the next 4 or 8 years. I'm not looking for that. What I'm asking to do is fill in for 7 months. I have the experience from my work in the school district, from serving on the Measure S committee, various other things, to be able to step in and relatively quickly be able to say, okay, I know how this works, I know how to be part of a governance team, and I can make this happen. But it can be an advantage or a disadvantage to be appointed and be running as a short-term incumbent. Oh, well, those people want you. Or, oh, well, yeah, if they picked him, him or her, that must be the best person. You can get both sides of that. And for me, I'm willing to step in, use my expertise, the knowledge I've gained over the years to help the city of Downey for the next 7 months.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And my second question is, and I think those of us that have known you for a number of years probably know this, but for the record, and because it's part of the interview question,
okay.
What qualities do you have that will help bring stability and help promote compromise to this council at this point in time?
Well, the first thing I learned on the school board, although the number will change here, I learned to count to 4. Here you learn to count to 3. Because you can spend your entire time saying how wonderful your ideas are. And if it's only you or you and one other person, it's not going to happen. So you need to be able to work through problems, come up with ideas that everybody can come aboard with. In a search for a city manager, maybe Mr. Trujillo has this person, number one. You, Ms. Fermetta, has this person. But everybody finds, guy number three, this other person, we all think he could do it. Somebody dislikes this guy, somebody dislikes this lady, but this is the one who can get everybody on board. And they know, yeah, they're well qualified, because we're not going to have a bunch of candidates that aren't well qualified. We're looking for specific things from people. And I think I can bring that kind of stability and ability to work and compromise and bring people together. I think I listened to Mr. Pierce's podcast. I was pleased that he called me professional. I didn't listen to all the other stuff he may have said about me, but don't know a lot about him, haven't worked with him a lot, but he seemed to be very professional all the time. And I took that as a compliment. When I was union president, professionalism is what gets you done. When you're working with various, on the county's Committee on School District Organization, there are 11 different people most of whom have served as trustees and who like to be in charge. It's a game of being, okay, where can we all find the same level of compromise? And I think that's the important thing that we all need to work on. Compromise, making sure that we're doing the right thing for the city and not just for our own particular interest. Because sometimes, we have to look and go, okay, I can see where they're coming from. I don't necessarily agree. For example, Mr. Guerra, I understand his views come from him being a refugee from Cuba. That's not an experience I ever would have had. So I know that there's things that inform other people's lives that are going to be different. And we have to all understand that that's how it plays out.
Thank you, Mr. LaPlante.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Mayor Pro Tem Alvarez.
Good evening, Mr. LaPlante. My first question is, one of the persistent issues the community brings up is the cost of housing, especially...
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Sorry. One of the persistent issues the community brings up is the cost of housing, especially rents. Over half of Downey residents are renters. What are your broad views on addressing this issue faced by Downey families?
Unfortunately, everybody is facing this ugly problem of inflated housing prices. I think we'd all like to just go and sell our own houses and go, gee, I think I could buy the state of Wyoming. I think we need to look at what's viable in this community. Does rent control work? Do other things work? How might we implement certain projects that would bring down the cost of housing? I know that the community is looking at some moderate income, low income housing in various places. And that's very important, that we not just be building big old $300,000 or $800,000 condominiums. It doesn't help the community. It doesn't help. As a former school trustee, those are not the people who bring in children into school districts. They bring in a kid maybe who's a sophomore or junior in high school because they've finally gotten up to the point where they can afford some kind of, payment of $800,000 for a condo. We need to get some good apartments. We need to get good housing stock that people can afford. And I'm not an expert on housing. Don't pretend to be. But I know those are the important things that we need to look at to make sure that people can afford to live in this community.
Thank you, Mr. LaPlante. The second question will be, are you planning to run in November?
No. Well, let me say never. If on the last afternoon of filing, no one else had filed, maybe you would. If on the last afternoon of filing at 4:45, the only two candidates are some communist and a neo-Nazi, yeah, I think I'd probably file. But I don't think either of those two options are extremely likely. So I don't expect to. I'm looking to bring whatever help I can to this community for the next 7 months, not the next 8 years.
Thank you, Mr. LaPlante.
Mr. LaPlante, thank you. You actually made the people in the audience and all of us here laugh, though. Thank you very much for your great sense of humor.
Where are your questions? Don't you have questions? I had this timed. I was expecting 6 minutes to answer your questions.
So I do have two questions.
Oh, good.
But my first one is a two-parter,
Oh, so you really have 3 questions. Okay, I know this trick.
pretty much.
Yeah, I've done this before too.
So how can you factor in other views that you may not agree with? And can you give me an example as to when this occurred? I can repeat it too.
No, I'm thinking. She didn't turn on the timer until I actually start talking. I know that. Yeah, okay, now she's done. I think you factor in other views by knowing that all of you got there by being elected. All of my colleagues on the school board got there by being elected. All of the agencies and groups I've worked with, we get there by being elected, whether it's from a small group of people or a larger group of people. And you have to respect that the people who elected whatever group you're working with had reasons for electing those people. And you have to respect their viewpoints. You may not always agree with their viewpoints, but you need to try to figure out how they get to their viewpoints. Your experiences are way different from my experiences. I'm an old white guy. I moved to this town in 1960 when my parents dragged me over here. Most of you have made more conscious decisions to come to Downey. I simply stayed because it was a good place. So you have to figure in everyone's points of view, where they come from, why they might be saying something that you sit there and go, I don't understand that. That doesn't make any sense to me. You try to pull out, okay, how did you get to that position? You know, someone who's an immigrant is going to have a different point of view than I'm going to have, having been born in Los Angeles, Hollywood. So you have to just work through issues. I think probably the best examples of successful times that I worked through the issues was when we hired the three superintendents that we had. It wasn't in private, completely oh yeah, these are the right people, absolutely. It's like, well, this person doesn't have any experience in this area. Well, this one has experience here, but this one, you have to look at what everybody's looking at. Sometimes people are looking for people to have experience in an area that maybe I don't care about. For example, somebody could be wanting somebody who has experience in the area of facilities. Maybe I only care about whether they know about classroom instruction. Maybe that's my highest priority, and I need to be able to communicate to somebody why that is my highest priority. In the city, what's my highest priority? Would it be the police, the fire department, community development, various other options? So you have to be prepared to answer and help figure out what everybody's point of view is and how they got there.
Thank you. And the last question, what makes you the best candidate?
My experience. I think my experience for a short-term position is what makes me the best candidate. The other candidates who have not served in public office probably could be fine members of the city council, but we're asking somebody to come in for a short period of time because there's no guarantee that whoever you appoint would get elected. There are already people, my understanding of, who are running for this District 2 who didn't put in their paperwork for this short-term seat. I believe I can work cooperatively with people. I can help the city council get done what needs to get done over the next 7 months, and then step aside and let somebody come in, learn. There's lots to do. I put my paperwork in because I felt that there was an option to help the city and to help the community and to help the people in District 2. I don't need to be able to put, city council member on my gravestone.
Thank you. And last but not least, you have a 2-minute closing statement.
Well, I'm tempted to suggest that you appoint Mario because he told me that he already told you that he has Dodger tickets for next Tuesday night. And if you appoint him, I might be able to talk him into giving me the Dodger tickets. And he's like third row behind home plate. That might even be a reasonable trade. I think, as I said, I think I'm the most qualified candidate. I have experience. I've been elected in this community 10 times, 8 times citywide, twice in the approximate area that accompanies District 2. There is a lot to be done. There's a short amount of time that things are going to have to happen in. Mr. Levis is leaving on July, goes into happy retirement land on July 1st. We can't just leave the position in an interim state. We need to be moving forward. I think I can help the city and the people in District 2 with whatever concerns and issues that come up. And I would ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank the members of the Academy and, oh, I don't get an Oscar. And now do I stay while the rest of the folks?
Yeah, you can just stay. Oh, I didn't. I will now take public comment on tonight's public hearing item. Before we begin the public comment period, I would like to remind members of the public that the city's meeting rules contained in the Downey Municipal Code prohibit any conduct that disrupts, disturbs, or interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting. Copies of the meeting rules are located in the back of the chambers. The City Council acknowledges the right of the public to address issues that are within the city's jurisdiction and invites the public to do so during the City Council meeting. However, this right must be balanced with the need of the City Council to conduct the public business in a fair and efficient manner, free from disruption or disturbance. Members of the audience who wish to address the City Council during public comment are reminded that the city's meeting rules prohibit yelling, whistling, booing, screaming, and any other outbursts that disrupts or disturbs the meeting. Any conduct that interferes with or disrupts persons who are addressing the City Council. Any conduct that interferes with or disrupts council members while they are speaking, and any other conduct that disrupts, disturbs, or interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting. Members of the audience violating the city's meeting rules after fair warnings shall be removed from the council chambers. I remind the audience that pursuant to Penal Code Section 403, it is a misdemeanor for any person to willfully disturb or break up a public meeting. Those violating Penal Code Section 403 may be cited accordingly. Each speaker shall have 3 minutes to address the council regarding this public hearing item. I remind speakers that your comments be addressed to me and not to any other council or staff member. Members of the public wishing to address the City Council may now come forward. And before we do that, City Clerk Duarte, have we received any written correspondence regarding tonight's public hearing to be read into the record?
Yes, Mayor, we do have one email correspondence that we received from former Downey Mayor Kirk Cartosian, former Downey Mayor Rick Rodriguez, former Downey Mayor Alex Saab and former Downey Mayor Roger Brosmer. Dear Mayor Pacheco, Mayor Pro Tem Alvarez, Councilmember Frometa, and Councilmember Trujillo, we and the community at large are very concerned about the current instability at Downey City Hall. Like you, the four of us are still quite tied to the fabric of our community. Our fellow citizens have lots of questions that even we cannot properly answer nor satisfy. We have no political agenda. We are not here to tell you how to vote on policy matters. This request is very simple. One of your colleagues left you unannounced. There now sits a vacancy in District 2. We believe you should appoint the most capable individual who can best service our city during these challenging times. We believe you should temporarily fill the vacancy in District 2 with an individual who has real experience in the position. It should be an individual who knows the city and community inside and out. It should be an individual who can only be appointed, not elected, to that seat this year. It should not be someone using the power of incumbency to get elected in November. Appointing a potential future office candidate would be unquestionably unfair. Our request is to appoint former Mayor Mario Guerra to the vacant district seat. This will allow for the inclusion of a new but old voice of reason on the dais. This individual service will be short-lived, as the appointment can only last until the end of this year. Former Mayor Guerra cannot run for the seat in November, so he could only serve about 6 remaining months. Regardless of how Downey got here, we can all agree that the city leadership through this challenging times is of utmost importance right now. There is a perception that this council is not focused on the same matters together. The loss of our city manager and city attorney now makes this hire the top priority for us. You were all elected to prioritize the community and its needs above personal preferences and politics. No former mayor has worked harder, more tirelessly, and more precisely on making Downey better than Mario Guerra. Not only was Mario the city's #1 cheerleader while serving at City Hall, he's still cheering for Downey. He's cheering for all of you too. Please show our community the leadership within your governing body. True leadership requires a willingness to work as colleagues for the betterment of the whole. It now requires working even harder and closer to stabilize a very fractured City Hall with little direction. Though you four are in a very difficult position, we are confident you can show true leadership by putting personalities and politics aside, stabilizing City Hall, and increasing morale. By appointing former Mayor Guerra to serve the district's remaining term, you can restore the community's faith in you and in our city government. If you can provide the leadership to restore stability to our city, we can all claim victory in November. That is all, Mayor.
Thank you. We will now have our first speaker come forward.
Somebody listen to the record? Yeah. So, everyone, let's not be confused about Mario Guerra. Now again, regardless how you vote, it's apparent that Mario Guerra will probably sit on that seat up there. So the pony and donkey show here is a true factor of a choice against a background of profound character. Idiot cheerleaders. Because again, in one of my statements in the past, I referred to the Klan and the Baptists and how one reunion becomes a smear baptism. That's what this sounds like. And it's unfortunate that we have to hear the song and dance about housing. And let me take, matter of fact, what Mr. Trujillo's quote to the 6 or 5 people in here. If appointed, what's the first goal? Well, the first goal is you will not be able to do what you said. Bottom line, it's a fact. We've seen the discouraging, prolonged problems growing in our city. Firestone looks like an abandoned war zone with businesses shut down. The promenade is not finished. You could have built housing there, but Guerra don't give a shit. Now, as far as the other candidates, you probably wasted their time tonight. And it's totally unacceptable and unfair. But this is the way OMO runs and operates LLC. A criminal enterprise that will forcibly conduct interviews of its 5 applicants this way. Keeping Downey good, let's keep Downey criminal. Mommy from Meta knows that. A city charter of criminal enterprise of cheerleaders.
Mr. Herman.
Yes. I'm speaking on item 3 now. To select an applicant for the formal appointment and swearing in, which I already announced. So the game's over. So get up here, put on your little donut show, and feed it to the idiot. Because that's what's going to happen tonight. I can swear by it. And if not, the best candidate might be Donald. Or even better, Victoria. Because I like change, I like reform. I like outsiders, not a dumbass. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I think it was refreshing to watch the different candidates and listen to them. I think there were some different viewpoints on some things. I think some were inexperienced, some were very experienced, some were humorous, even in spite cutting into some of that humor, you can see through some of that. But it was good anyway to hear everybody and a variety of people. I enjoyed that. Everybody seemed to be saying the same things. I thought the questions could have been a little more poignant. It's difficult in a situation like this, no doubt. But the priorities of some people are pretty obvious. What was missing tonight was, aside from the affordable housing and renters and being concerned about people, is nobody stood up for the homeowners or the landlords. Not one person did. You've demonized them enough with your rent control, and do not include the landowners at all, because you don't care. You don't care. It takes both. It takes both. What I also heard was nobody advocating for rolling back taxation for our businesses and rolling back regulations to retain businesses and encourage new businesses to come in. Not one word about lowering the taxation rate, which will help our consumers as well. Crime, keeping everybody safe. Not one person stood up and supported the recall of George Gascon to help our police in fighting crime. Not one. And I just want to ask, is anybody going to oppose the hotel tax? Either you call it a direct tax or an indirect tax. It's a tax. But when's the last time somebody has ever suggested that we lower our tax rates as taxpayers? Who's going to help us? Nobody. Nobody mentioned it at all tonight. It's just something that some things are missing. I know some people are the biggest cheerleader. They are sincere. Some people have humor. They don't need their name on their headstone, but they have their name on a hall over at Warren High School. So let's temper this a little bit, okay? These things are fun, but this is serious, and it's a serious time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council members. City Attorney, and Mr. Levis. Originally, I had a long message written for tonight's meeting where I had pointed out all the wrongs that have gone on in the city since the November 2020 election. I've observed the disqualifications of some that are serving and the destruction of our city leadership that has followed. But we all know about that, and I decided to go with something a little more positive here. I am here on behalf of the Downey cheerleader that in the short time I've known him has earned my 100% support to be the leader for District 2. Mario Guerra has proven himself to be a strong, trustworthy, professional, eloquent leader. He has served honorably as the mayor of this city, not just once, but twice. His first love is God, then his family, and then we all know Downey. He has no ulterior motives. He has served on I'm sorry, I skipped too fast. He has the strength and guidance that is missing in the council today. No disrespect to council members Fermetta and Pacheco. A person of his caliber and moral fortitude is needed to bring stability back to the city and to the high standards that we all love and expect in Downey. He will not need training. He will not need to be shown the ropes. He will not need to figure out the dynamics of the council or of our beloved city of Downey. During his time as mayor, he resolved differences and brought opposing sides together for Downey. He brought businesses to our city that did not include nearly naked women. He built up the city during trying times, and he brought spirit and hope to our community. He knows how to bring large businesses to our city if needed. He is honest, he is proud, he is devoted, and he is strong. He is very well respected and trusted by many in the city. Besides that, he's also very approachable, unlike my representative. I'm not saying the others are not qualified, as I do not know them. I have been impressed by a couple of them tonight, but not to the point I feel they are qualified for the short term. Maybe they should consider running. I also know that they do not have the experience nor the institutional knowledge to jump in and get the job done, which is desperately needed for the 6-month appointment. As we have seen by Ms. Alvarez, being available and being qualified to do a good job is two completely separate issues. Basically, we need a strong leader to break the tie votes and to create an equal representation of all citizens in Downey. Please help us stop the freefall. Thank you.
For the record, hope I did that right. Mike Greenspan, the Jew who's not moving back to Florida, you anti-Semitic, anti-Christ Catholics who've told me that. I'm a gifted student. I didn't go to school out here. And I came across a Los Cerritos Community News from October 23rd, 2020. Oh, let me give you the headline. Conflicts of interest are rife between Downey City Council candidate and former
Mr.
Downey
Greenspan, topic.
mayor. This is
Topic.
Downey. This is an issue.
You're off topic. The item.
It's not off topic. We're talking about a council race. We're talking about housing and subsidized housing because somebody gave somebody, Mr. Pierce, a break of anywhere from $29,500
This is your
to
final warning.
$69,000. That's an illegal contribution.
You've been warned multiple times. City Manager Levis, can we please have Mr. Greenspan escorted out?
Captain, can you please see that? Thank you.
Yeah, we're gonna get your license card.
Yeah.
See how that goes, check over, and file a complaint.
Warning.
You've been warned, Mr. Martinez, and I don't know the person behind him. Please no outburst.
Thank you, twat face.
Okay, Mr. Martinez.
I will start off by saying that unfortunately, as I heard most of these hopeful appointees I didn't really see anyone stand out at all. What I personally witnessed was two people who are probably being pushed by the electrical company, mainly Edison, a police officer who thinks that we need more enforcement and more public safety while just looking at homelessness as just another basic issue. When you portray homelessness in such a way as someone who's trying to be appointed, you're dehumanizing those individuals. They're not just people or that you move aside and that you clean up a city by making sure that these people have no ability to participate in our government or society. So that's a huge concern. I also found it weak, extremely weak for everyone that says that they're not going to run again. It's a lie and it's a strategy. They have to say that they're not interested. But if someone is running to get appointed, and if someone cares about their city as much as they claim they do, then they're going to do whatever it takes to protect and serve this community. And if you're going to want to be appointed, then you should have the passion enough to continue to serve after. So if you were one of those candidates who said that you were not interested in seeking an election after, you're a complete liar. And your lies here on this podium tonight shows us that you will say whatever you gotta say to kiss ass and get appointed by these people. A second weakness was compromise. Compromise and working with everyone together. You don't know what the job is gonna be, and you don't know what's gonna come before you once you're sitting on that desk. To say that compromise is somehow philosophically the ultimate conclusion, that is erroneous. There are gonna be times where you're gonna see agenda items, or you're gonna see corrupt elected officials or staff members that aren't abiding by the rules, and there's not gonna be a compromise. There's no way to just look the other way or accept the illegality or the corruption or the unethical behavior that you're witnessing right now in this very meeting. A real council member is gonna protect the policies, the community, and is gonna be fair in its distribution of regulating rules. So compromise and the forfeiting of values can never be on the table when it comes to those particular examples that every council member has to face while they're sitting here, appointed or elected. That is just complete weakness. Now, finally, I do want to say this is a joke. Mario Guerra is probably going to get appointed. It's going to probably look like an abstain from Alvarez and a 3 confirmed over here. They wasted your time.
Evidently, I'm here tonight because I'm concerned that the council is going to appoint Mr. Mario Guerra. While Mr. Mario Guerra offers a lot of institutional experience, the council members that are here should pull their weight and do their job and perform the role that they ran on, right? You individuals are here, like you got to fill the shoes, right? If you can't be here, then you shouldn't be here, and you shouldn't expect Mr. Guerra to pull everybody's weight. That's really just unacceptable. The leadership as to why Mr. Livas and the city attorney is leaving is because of your failed leadership. Ms. Pacheco, you have a conflict of interest with OMLO, and you know it. And the other individuals that ran for this office, I think that the council should pick somebody in District 2 that embodies the essence of District 2. Now, while one might say, well, Mr. Guerra, lives in District 2, but prior to that, he was living in District 3. So I think that the council needs to reflect on the community that lives in District 2 and pick somebody that doesn't have so much experience. Experience is not bad, but you have to give the opportunity to other individuals that are capable but may not have the experience. And I'm glad that the city attorney is leaving. It's not our fault. You guys decided to fire Mr. Livas or resign. And I still have a right to talk. So you better be quiet, or else I'm going to file a complaint to the State Bar Association against you, because you're doing a bad job at having this meeting. And
Topic.
It is on topic.
That's your second warning.
You keep interrupting me. You know that, right?
Stay on topic.
I am. Can I have my time back?
No. Go on.
Anyway, so this is what happens when we have individuals that are corrupt. They're negotiating
Mr. City Manager Levis, can we please have a Miss Gordon out?
Captain Lochner, could you please
deal.
remove the gentleman from the chambers?
Cut the mic.
You're a liar. You are a liar. I'm
Okay,
so
let's
glad
take a
they're
break.
escorting
Take
you
a break.
out.
Recess.
Bye.
We will now reconvene the city council meeting. Can I please have the next speaker come up? And please stay on topic.
So the topic for today is the appointment of this person to the other seat. So I think it's important to think about why this is happening. So basically, we had, some of the applicants like Mr. Guerra and many other politicians, elected officials here for a long time. And so they did their things that they wanted to do, their vision for the city, which included a lot of things that many people found unpopular, and hence they voted for a different direction in the election of 2020. And I think that was like the good thing that happened. So, there was a rejection of the policies of Mr. Mario Guerra that he pursued, and all the mayors who signed that letter that was sent in, it was a rejection of those policies as well. Like the people said, we don't like what that letter says. We don't want those housing policies of the past. For example, we want the housing policies of the future. And that's what the people voted for. So I think it would be a disservice to the voters who chose a different direction, right? We know that Mr. Mario Guerra did not support Mr. Trujillo because Mr. Trujillo, is not married to a woman. That was known widely. And he was supporting someone else. And thankfully, I'm very happy that, that person didn't make it on. So we have Mr. Trujillo, who's, many people have different views, but he has advocated certainly in favor of the LGBT community that was not having a lot to say before, and including the homophobic tendencies of the past that we certainly saw in previous councils And we certainly saw when Mr. Mario Guerra was on the board. So Mr. Mario Guerra is just, no, we should not take a step backwards. That's in the past. It's passé. It's history. Instead, maybe some of the other applicants are, I thought, they all said different things that some of them, I would vote for them if I could, but it doesn't make sense to go back into the past. It doesn't make sense to go back into the past. The community voted for a resounding rejection of the policies associated with Mr. Mario Guerra and all the rest of the people on that letter. So, no to Mr. Mario Guerra. Thanks.
Mayor, Mr. Martinez has re-entered the chambers.
Mr. Martinez, please exit. Mr. City Manager, can we have Mr. Martinez escorted out again?
Sure. Captain Lochner, can we make sure Mr. Martinez?
Mr. Martinez was removed.
Was he removed?
Yeah.
Was he removed?
Yes. No? No, but he called, it was after.
I think it was the other guy.
Yes.
The other gentleman?
Okay. I'm sorry, Mr. Martinez. Can you please have a seat if you're going to be in the council chambers? Okay, sorry. You may proceed.
So I get a bit upset when people play with things that are a serious matter. So let me reframe a few things. Compromise is nowhere near weak. Compromise is probably one of the strongest acts that you can do in this life. The fact that some of these candidates came up and said that they weren't seeking election for the upcoming election year is probably one of the most respectable things they could have said. You know what that showcases? It showcases that you're not just hungry for power irresponsibly. What it showcases is that you can put the city that you love above your childish games. That's what it shows. So what they're doing here, for all those who aren't just interested in bickering and playing partisan games, is finding someone who can then elect someone that can run our city. Do you know what that entails? That's the financial interest, making sure the stakeholders are happy. I don't think you want to see what the city looks like when the stakeholders run out. It's not going to be pretty. You want to see empty shopping complexes? You want to know where you're going to get your groceries? People will abandon this city so fast if we don't establish some kind of stability. And to see that you don't know what you're doing on this plane, and you come in and you cause all kinds of ruckus when some serious procedure needs to happen, it irritates me. So I respect that these people said they're going to come in and leave after these 7 months, because I know that they're going to be laser focused on what they need to do when they come into office. If you want to play your partisan games, wait till November. I'm sure there'll be plenty of opportunity for you to flood the chambers with that kind of nonsense. So, not to sound condescending, but you seem to be in the market for that kind of phrasing. So let the adults talk and stay quiet. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening, Mayor Pacheco.
Good evening.
When you come unscripted, you're not sure what you're going to say. First off, I think we have some great candidates here. I know a few of them, and there's many that spoke that I didn't know of. We have a lot of people here in town that want to step up. They want to represent the city, and that's great, but I think it's also a time in November for them to run. I don't think it should be someone that would have an unfair advantage as an incumbent should they run at next election. We need to be logical here. We're like Amazon. Downey is like a company of Amazon. We lost our president, our city manager. We lost our CFO. We lost our CFO, our community development. We have major vacancies. And in a fast-moving city with all our great departments, without the right leadership in place, that can collapse quickly. And this is why we need to right now have somebody that has experience. This is not a training wheels on the job type of a position. It's only 6 months, but in that 6 months, there's critical decisions that need to be made. And that can be done irregardless of partisan. Someone that has the experience, any former person or council person that's been in that chair. For District 2, there seems to be only one. It should not be someone that can run again. It should be someone that has experience. And it should be focused on replacing a very valuable position, big shoes to fill by that man that's no longer going to be with us. So for my opinion and for my personal opinion with the city, I've lived here all my life. We need to get the ship steering straight again, get on board, negotiate, make good decisions for the entire city, not just on a personal level. And it's only 6 months. Choose somebody that has the experience to do that. And I believe that's left with only one person. Thank you.
B. Squire. What I would appreciate it from all of you council members is, yes, I'm on the Recall Gascon Committee. I would have liked you to ask them, do they not see that crime spreads like cancer? And it's only a matter of time it's going to come into this city. It would have been nice if you would have asked each one of these candidates whether or not they agree with the recall of Gascon and why. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello again. Good to see everyone. My name is Joaquin Beltran. I'm running for Congress in our district. Mi nombre es Joaquín Beltrán. Estoy corriendo para el Congreso en este distrito. I just want to thank everyone who stepped up today. I think it's incredibly important, especially during this time when we have so many issues like housing, like health, like safety, like job growth and small businesses that need to be supported, and also big issues like climate change, to have leadership and people from the community step up. I was watching online the speeches, and I was really struck by some comments that Patrick Owens made about the importance of housing and how that's such a big issue, and it really is. With the increasing rent, the increasing cost to own a home. And one thing really stuck with me, and that's empowering the next generation of leadership. And I think, it's the next generation here, the current generation, that quickly becomes the next generation that is going to be facing many of these challenges. And also Victoria Valdez, who talked about living out of her car. And who ended up serving her community and talking about stepping up in this moment. And I think that's what it's about, right? It's about stepping up in this moment. And that's a call to action for everyone in our community. A lot of politics is filled with, folks that are older, but I think in this moment, we need folks that are older. We need folks that are just raising families, and we need young people that are just in college as well. The challenges that we face going forward requires all of us to come together, work together on these enormous challenges. So I just want to thank them for stepping up. There's only one position today, but you're all public servants. You're all community servants. So I want to thank you. And thank you again for filling this position. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, good evening. Hi, good evening. I'm a resident of Downey for 28 years. I'm going to stay on topic. And all I have to say, I'd like to thank all the candidates for applying, I guess, but the only two candidates that I really felt had the confidence and the determination as they spoke was only two. Mario Guerra, for sure. He's been our mayor. And if not, if you choose not to vote for Guerra, at least go with Donald LaPlante. Because other than that, I didn't hear the determination and there was no confidence. But I thank you, everybody else, for, applying. Other than that, I'm just going to keep it simple, and we need to focus on our city and our community, and hope you make the best decision, especially in these hard times. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public speakers? Any speakers? Seeing none, is there a motion to close public comment?
moved.
Is there a second? So ordered by the mayor. Now comes the most difficult part of tonight's meeting. Are there any comments from my council colleagues?
I do. I want to thank the community members that are here with us this evening. Again, it's a back-to-back special meeting, council meeting last night and a special council meeting this evening. Those of you that are watching us on via YouTube and our Zoom, thank you. We are in a very difficult position in the city of Downey, and we all realize it. I say engaged communities are strong communities. I want to thank the candidates for stepping up and realizing that our city needs stability, our council needs compromise. And one of the things that has made Downey the community it is we have not been a partisan city. We all are affiliated with a particular party. But I've said that before. Our city, our streets, our sewers, and our lights are not partisan, folks, and we shouldn't be either. And one of the commissioners that spoke during public comment said it very eloquently. Compromise is difficult. Compromise, we will never agree on everything. But the job that we have been elected to do here is to look at the best for our communities. We pride ourselves in being Downey residents for 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, even more. I know I've been here since my middle school years, since my parents emigrated from Mexico. And again, some of you indicated our stories will be different. How we arrive to these seats will be different. And so my comments tonight, I want to thank the 5 applicants. I want to thank our law enforcement individual, Ms. Valdez, and Commissioner Owens, Mr. Shedden, and Mr. Don LaPlante, and former Mayor Mario Guerra. It takes such strength to be able to stomach what we have to deal with during these days right now in the city of Downey and other cities. There are elements that have invaded our communities. In fact, a few that are the constant violators during public comment, I have to say, all but one live in this city. And so their comments have absolutely no bearing on the decisions we make. Having said all of this, partisan politics should not play a role in this council. We live in divisive times in our community. The divisions from the extreme one side and the extreme other side are tearing us apart, folks. And they're tearing our communities apart. They're tearing this city apart. We are seeing a mass exodus. And it is incumbent upon us to rise up and select the best individual. We have 14 meetings left. And again, we have qualified candidates here, from Commissioner Owens to Donald LaPlante to an individual that has served our city with distinction as mayor twice. And so I think I would encourage my council colleagues to think about what is best for our city, because our community, I think, has woken up. And how we vote tonight will have not just an impact on the next several days and weeks and months until the November election, we will see a reckoning of this community. And for those that may think about running again, we will see the legacy that we're living right now, because these are historic times in Downey. We're not a city in transition, we're a city going through the biggest destabilization in this city's history. So we have to call it for what it is. And we need people that are here to champion our city, champion each other, because we have more things that we agree on than what tears us apart. We can allow partisan politics to tear us apart, and that's exactly what some instigators that come to our council chambers want us to do. So I really would urge my council colleagues to make the right decision. I would like to make a motion to appoint Mr. Mario Guerra. Thank you.
Are there any other comments from my council colleagues? I just want to say thank you to all the applicants. Thank you for your service, either on the Planning Commission, on the school board, as our former mayor, and to the other two candidates that were willing to come up and put in an application and come before us here on the council. Yes, this is a nonpartisan seat, and we have to look at what are the needs of our community. We need to do what's best for the community. And there are two, in my eyes, two individuals who I believe are very strong candidates. Former Mayor Mario Guerra and former school board member Donald LaPlante. Both have served the community extremely well. Both have the experience here in the city of Downey. Both know the community well, and both have the experience serving on boards respectively. They have both served the community well, and both of them have the heart of serving the community. So for me, my vote goes to, I make the motion, the substitute motion for Donald LaPlante to fill the vacancy. He is a strong candidate and has the experience as well. So I make that substitute motion, and I don't know if there's a second. Or another substitute motion?
I would like to make a motion to appoint Patrick Joseph Owens.
Okay, so we've got three motions. We usually take the last one first. So if there's no other motions, we'll start with Councilmember from Alvarez's motion and see if there's a second. Her motion was to, I also want to remind you, there's a resolution in front of you. So that would be a motion to adopt your resolution in accordance with Councilmember Alvarez's motion to appoint Patrick Owens and adopt the resolution with Patrick Owens' name on it. So is there a second on that one?
I will second the nomination for Mr. Owens.
Okay.
Okay, can we take a vote?
Having technical difficulties.
So that motion fails. Again, resolutions require 3 affirmative votes. You had 2 yeses and 2 nos. So that motion fails. So the next motion would be to adopt the resolution appointing Mr. LaPlante to fill the vacancy. Is there a second for that motion?
I will make a motion, substitute motion once again, to appoint former Mayor Mario Guerra.
We're taking the motions in reverse order.
Yeah.
So the next motion that came after Alvarez was Mayor Pacheco to appoint Mr. LaPlante. So is there a second for that motion? Hearing no second, that motion fails. Now we'll go to Councilmember Frometa's motion to appoint Mario Guerra to fill the vacancy and to adopt the resolution accordingly. Is there a second for that one?
Since I'm willing to be a team player, I will make a second for that because I believe that's the second most qualified individual.
Okay.
Mayor, I'm gonna take a roll call.
Okay.
We didn't set up for various motions.
I was going to
Sorry
say, I'm
about
having
that.
technical difficulties.
So, Councilmember Frometa,
That's an aye.
Councilmember Trujillo,
That's a nay.
Mayor Pro Tem Alvarez,
No.
Mayor Pacheco.
Yes.
That motion fails as well.
Okay.
So either the options for the council are to talk about some of the other candidates that you might find a consensus on with the 3 votes, or take no further action and leave the position vacant.
I will go ahead and make a final motion to appoint Mr. Donald LaPlante.
I'll go ahead and second that one. I'll second it again. Can we take a vote?
Yes. Councilmember Frometa,
Aye.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Alvarez,
No.
Mayor Pacheco.
Yes.
Motion passes. So the resolution is adopted with Mr. LaPlante filling the vacancy for District 2.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Mr. LaPlante.
So again, I want to thank the community for joining us this evening. Again, I want to thank all the applicants for submitting your applications. It was a long evening, but I admire everybody who joined us this evening. And to the community, again, thank you for joining us. We are now going to adjourn the meeting. The time is 8:13 p.m. Have a good evening, everyone.